And hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 217 of the Pixel Classroom podcast. Here we are set here. This is actually our big final guest episode here for 2025. So this is it. So I thought I'd kick it off with a very good way on this. And he's probably wondering here, but he is the founder and managing owner of Ratio Staffing, a groundbreaking platform that reshapes how preschools connect with substitute teachers and rich educators. As a former preschool teacher himself for near 20 years of hands-on experiences, he is, of course, mission personally and deep connection to help children thrive and support in educations. And I have a lot to talk about here on it, but I'd like to welcome the one and only Paul Buckley here to the Pixel Classroom podcast. Thank you, Paul. Welcome.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. That was great. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I try. I mean, I was looking at a thing like, how do I sum this up? Because, we got a lot of good things. And I gave a nice little introduction. But, Paul, why don't you tell us a lot? Because here's another thing, and not to sound anything crazy, because I keep this podcast as open as possible. You don't hear a lot about preschool teachers that are men. I mean, seriously, I can count on one hand, and his name's Adam, and he's listening now, is one of the few male kindergartners. And as somebody who has taught preschoolers in kindergartens in his 15 years, and somehow I still have some hair left on the side. How does that happen? I mean, I'm not trying to think, but you don't hear a lot about men preschool teachers.
It's really true. How it happened for me was I was first working in after school care with school age children. And then the organization I was with, they had preschool in the mornings at certain sites and aftercare at different sites. And so initially it was a way for me to gain extra hours in the day. And my boss said, she's like, Paul, you're great with school age kids. Do you want to try a preschool? She's like, it's very different. And I thought, I trust her. And I figured, well, she knows what she's talking about. I'm sure it is very different, but let me try it. And I went into my first classroom. I had the requisite units to be allowed in the classroom as a teacher. In California, you need 12 units.
Right.
Right. And so I had the 12 units and I went to the classroom and I loved it. I went to the site and it was, it was a bunch of 3-year-olds and I just had a ball. I thought it was a lot of fun. But I do think because there are fewer male preschool teachers, sometimes it's a little easier for us because the kids are so happy to see to see a male teacher. It's different. And so they're like, hey, it's, of course that lasts only so long, but I really just enjoyed it. I really had a lot of fun. I thought it was a blast. The kids are so fun at that age. For me, I love 3s and 4s from a teacher perspective.
Right.
And I just really liked it. And so I stayed. I kept doing it, and quickly it was clear how important the age group is. Right? Clearly, it was important developmentally. It's very important for the families, especially when it's their first child.
Yes.
Which I then experienced with my own children. Right? Being that first one, yeah.
I'm like, I have that too. He's almost 15 here in a couple more weeks, but yeah, exactly. I know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah. So that's how it kind of started. That's how it first happened. Was I was in school age first and then went to preschool initially for more hours in the day. And I loved it. So I stayed.
And I mean, that's a really good I can, like I said, I'm 47, soon to be 48 here pretty soon. The kids were trying to guess my age here, and I was giving them math questions. Like, so if my mother graduated high school, and I actually work now in my mother's alma mater. I mean, that's fine. I was talking with some people with her yearbook photo, but I said, well, she was class of 71. This is her junior year. So they're looking at me like, okay. I said, okay, she graduated in 71, and I was born in 78. How old would she be now? And they looked at me like, what? And then they're like, okay, if I was born in 78 and it is now 2025, my birthday is March of 2026. Right. And I had a couple kids look at me and then some were just like, you're 43. I went, okay, guys, okay, I'd love to be 43. And then some kid went 60. I'm like, you're not funny. That was not, like, I could tell they were doing that to me. But going back, way back many moons, which is ironic. And you're talking preschool. I found this out. One of my old preschool teachers from when PK4, even though it was many moons ago, 1982. She's still there. She is in her
wow.
late 80s. She retired a long time ago. She has always worked at that school. When I was there once upon a time, 40 odd years ago, she was in her early 40s. Kids were off to college and everything, and she's still there. And she could remember me because I said, oh, I said, yeah. And I said, I was here a long time ago. I was introducing my son, and she was just there. And people had told me she was still working, still alive. And I talked, and she looked at me and I said, well, I lived here. And then she also went, you had that allergy to those plants that used to be out there when I used to drive through. And it does. And I looked at her like in shock that she could remember those tiny details. And then she asked me, what do you do for a living? I was like, I'm a teacher. She's like, well, there we go.
Yeah, exactly. It worked.
So really laughed. And I didn't even know. I was shocked. I just couldn't, because I had remembered the name, but I couldn't. And the preschool's still there. But it was just amazing. She's still there, and she remembered something which was 43 years ago. When
that's cool.
So it's kind of interesting how it is. Like for me, I've done with the littles, as we call them. I've done the elementary, but high school's been where I am. Like I did middle school early on, and just before I was certified. And then of course last year I was over at Harvard, which I miss a lot of my kids over there and the staff.
Mm-hmm.
But high school has always been where I am. I worked. I was doing stuff today. I mean, when you can bring out Gizmo from Gremlins and talk about risk assessment and insurance, you're doing something right. And of course, I'd probably have some of those kids cracking up more about Gizmo versus like, what is he talking about? Versus the kids are like, oh, I'm getting this. I'm getting this.
Yeah. Whatever works, though.
Exactly, and that's the one thing too, because you also spent a decade in biotech leadership. You also worked on global teams and everything. And first of all, you're a Six Sigma green belt. I think if I ever got on your bad side, I'd probably be out that window over there in my live stream right here. People always say, "Oh, he's in his live stream." It's gonna be a good studio. That's why we have this little desk for people watching us. There's a whopping 3 of you watching our live show right there. There we go. There's the future pod. Nope, sorry, I didn't do that right. Let me try that again. There we go. Now we're in that little mode right there. There's a little podcast kind of back studio there too. My live stream's being weird. I don't know what just happened. Anyhow, it must be our domination. But yeah, I mean, you've got quite the background. So you take all that. How's that working in teaching? And how did that really kind of move you towards ratio staffing there, Paul?
Well, I don't know if the biotech experience moved me toward ratio staffing, but it gave me skills that I need for this now that I was unaware of at the time. This wasn't a long-term plan, the current iteration of the business now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The plan was to leave the biotech company. I gave my boss 6 months notice, and the plan was to leave and cash out all my stock and everything, which I did, and stay home with our son, our first son. We have 3 boys now. That was the plan. The plan was, I'm going to cash this out. I'm going to stay home with my son.
Right.
And I had ideas of potentially starting a biotech temp agency because I knew it so well. And then I thought, okay, I'll get to helping preschools somehow, some way, once I make some money with this temp agency. And after a couple of years of being home with my son, which I loved, right? It's like I wouldn't change it for the world.
Right.
That's worth more than anything I have ever. And why I have the business now is to hopefully increase time for people. Yeah, and you can see our mission. So over the course of the 2 years, it became clear that things are moving in reverse. The biotech temp agency would actually take more time, more money, a different kind of plan and investment, different roadblocks. Whereas the preschool need was right there. It was immediate, and I could actually do it on my own right away. And so I began helping schools find teachers and directors, anything staffing wise. I began doing one-on-one direct recruiting for schools. So I would take over your recruiting burden. I would assume the recruiting burden. And over the course of doing that, it became, again, something else became clear, that the sub issue, what became clear is the subbing issue, finding real-time substitutes, finding substitutes in a manner that was effective and efficient, was not available and is not available outside of our platform. That's why I say that. So the time in the biotech firm didn't push me toward it. I guess it did, looking back in a sense, it did push me toward it because I ended up leaving and it got me here. But I think more importantly, were the skills I learned allowed me to build this and allowed me to find that efficient, effective solution that we have now, right?
Yeah, and that's an interesting you bring that up too, because when I was first, when I was working on my master's and I was working on subbing, there was like systems set up that you would get an alert and everything else, but I would always like lose out, but they would always be saying we need a sub here. Now keep in mind that was a different story 16 years ago. But the one thing too is they always had to work on where they had to sign up people and they usually became the regular, but there is, especially now in the last few years, it is very hard to find a sub, especially for lower grades. Like, upper grades like middle school, high school, even if somebody's got to quickly, it doesn't happen. If community colleges will have a sub, but it's very simple. Like, oh, you did this and you're a teacher here. Oh, you want to come sub for this one class? We got the thing, and you just move on. You're on the list and you move on. But it's very hard to find preschool and especially kindergarten. 9 times out of 7, it's administration that subs for those classes. It really is. I think I've seen my principals and past deans in that area too. I can count on one hand at a school which was private, and then one time I did work public very briefly in one where I did my internship, where they were like, we have to have a sub for PK4. I said, what we're doing is we're gonna do exercises, we're gonna do songs. I'm like, I can do that. And I actually took that on to a school later, because I would do STEAM enrichment with kindergartners, and we would always start with a video, and it worked really good getting them going on too. But times out of 10, they're like, well, you're one of the rare ones, Ryan, because we really can't find somebody this age to, I shouldn't say my age, but this subject level of elementary to handle that.
Yeah. And what I found is that the populations are out there, right? The populations of schools, the demand is there and supply is actually there. The connection was faulty, either non-existent or faulty. The current standard mainstream connection is not good. If I'm being kind, right? The standard staffing agencies for preschools, if I'm being kind, it's not very nice, right? It's and if I'm being honest, it's predatory and it's restrictive, and it's actually detrimental to the schools and to the teachers who get involved with these staffing agencies, right? Because the staffing agencies end up employing the sub, leasing them out at a high hourly rate the schools can't afford, right? And then they restrict the access. You can't request the same sub. You have no control who comes in. The sub has no control where they go, right? If the school wants to retain that sub as a regular teacher, you have to buy them out of their contract, right? At a rate they can't afford.
No.
If the sub quits the agency.
I've heard stories. I haven't been one of those people, but I have heard retired teachers or ones that started part-time got into the system. Maybe they didn't stay in preschool or early elementary, as we like to call it, and they went to later middle school or college level. But they said that was always the problem with things too. I mean, I'm not going to say anything in my current district because I'm not 100% sure for the structure, but there are certain people they look to that have been screened, who have been in the system for a number of years, that they A, feel safe about, and B, they know can work with that early of an age. So but the problem is those people eventually retire. Those people take full-time positions where they can't do it, or they moved out of the area, or the worst happens, they have a fantastic one and then they pass away. And then it's like, what do we do now?
Yep, that's right. And so we removed those roadblocks because, to me, they're unnecessary, to say the least. More importantly, my feeling is, and I think what's been shown more than my feeling, what's been proven in the industry, is that those roadblocks don't allow children to come in contact with the adults they need, right?
Right.
Also, the preschools, if they can't find someone like you've experienced and you've seen, then you have a loss of leadership. It's the director in the classroom on the floor. It's the admin on the floor with the children, right? And the school as a whole then is impacted. From the larger concern is you see teachers not taking their time off, right? It increases burnout, right? They don't take their vacation. They don't call in sick, right? And so it actually increases burnout. It increases attrition, right? And people are unhappy, right? And they should be, because it's a stressful environment where it doesn't have to be. If you have a supply of substitutes and you have a connection to a supply of substitutes, You have connection to enrichment teachers. You have a platform where you can post jobs and find teachers like ours does. Now people are taking time off. They're calling in sick when they're supposed to. People are happy and healthy, right? And the children are getting the adult supervision they need, right? I shouldn't say supervision. They're getting the adult care they need, right, to develop and have a fun day, right? They're
Yeah.
supposed to be having an enjoyable, fun, even a challenging day with adults there to take care of them. And this helps you do that, because without it, it's honestly, if I'm thinking big picture, I feel like it's our world at large. If I can help our world at large, right, for each little classroom, then it's, I can sleep at night doing my little part in the world.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. Like I'll take up today here. We have our subs. Sometimes we have a good amount of subs, but sometimes we're doing two. I had a very important meeting. I had to do evaluation time. It's the last one. I'm like, I saw what the class was like. I love to be in that class. It's a subject I kind of has a little side and fun with, but it's like I can't be there. I have a more important too. And then there was one time a couple of years ago where it was a weird odd to it, and I ended up subbing two classes. And then on top of my own here, I lost my plan time. I lost a beginning school time. The kids loved it. They were happy to see me. But I just remember the end of the day, I just like, I'm going to bed. I'm done. My wife's like, where are you going? We just ate dinner. Like, no, I'm done. I'm very tired. I'm like, it's like, yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of extra cash, but then it's like, but I'm tired and I am burned out.
Right. 100%.
And it is interesting how that, it is. And I don't think people looked at that. Even, that's one thing too. Subs get burnt out too. I mean, I always think of the old joke with, Dustin Hoffman, the old Simpsons episode where he's like, oh, one day I'm teaching a math class. Next minute I'm shooting hoops, or for God's sakes, I'm, making sure I don't cut my finger off on a bandsaw and everything. The life of a substitute. And then he takes the full-time job. That's the point, is he's taking a full-time job in Capital City while he leaves. But he's basically saying, I'm getting tired. Yes, I love doing it, but I am tired. I want a regular classroom, a regular set of plans, and I want to go on and be fine with that.
That's right. And also that's why we built our platform this way, because the substitutes have more control over their life as well, right? So with our platform, the substitutes get to decide where they go and when they go, right? So if they aren't available that day, or if the school's too far, or if it's a philosophy they're unaware of, have no experience with, if it's an age group they have no experience with, they don't have to go.
Mm-hmm.
So the control, the
Right.
controls in both parties, the school and the sub, can say yay or nay, right? So there's no, that way. I'm hoping it helps reduce that too, the sub burnout, because they have say in their life and where they want to go. And same as the enrichment teachers, I think about the idea of maintaining art in our world, maintaining an enriched world. If you can make some money with your passion, you can make some cash. If you're a musician or an artist or a yoga teacher, right, or a story writer, right, you can make some cash, and you can enrich children's lives at the same time. So you can make a living in your art form.
Right. I remember many years ago, 5th grade of all places, and my mother came in as there was a special thing that every week somebody's students, and somehow some of us never collided the same birthday in the same week. But my mom, who was a graphic designer, still is, she's retired now, but she came in and actually did a whole lesson for their art lesson, because it was timed with not only her, because always you had a parent or guardian come in and talk a little about it, and they would ask a little question to get to know your classmate better. But my teacher, and maybe someday I'll find her out there, Miss Larson, said, Mrs. Reed, I mean, she wasn't remarried yet, but they said, would you like to come in? We're having our art there. I know you're an art, you're a graphic designer. And she's like, have they ever done a logo? She's like, no. I'm like, then I'll do it. And she had so much done. And two of my classmates, and I still talk to them today, and we run into occasionally coming to town, that she inspired them to be what they are now. One is a full graphic designer. One is a marketing graphics designer too. And they love it. And one of them built his entire business on that. He even thanks her. He will come to town and say, Mary Lou, are you free? And he will get coffee, he still does that. And that was 36 years ago. I remember it like yesterday. And
That's so cool.
Amazing.
That is so cool. I love hearing stuff like that. That's so amazing. And I think it's that kind of stuff that, unless it's happened to you, maybe you don't hear about it. Maybe you forget about it. Maybe you don't realize. I don't know. Maybe it's human nature for us to forget sometimes the impact or experiences we had. I don't know, but I remember stuff like that growing up with different teachers and different people in my life, different adults, quote unquote, in my life, or people older than me in my life. I remember those kinds of things, and I feel, because of that, I feel so fortunate to have had those experiences with other people in my life, that I feel required almost to be doing this in the world, right? To be trying to help where I can. For me, it's, as providing support in the world. This platform is how I think about it. I feel obligated in a good way. Like, I want to do it. I feel so grateful for the support I was given in that kind of, in those kinds of same situations your friends experienced with your mom. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
It's important.
yeah, it is. I mean, I had a former student just before I left one of my districts a couple years ago. I had worked with him. He always gave me a hard time. He loved my classes, but he went into the military, got into school and everything else. And he works at the power plant about 30 miles away around here and everything else, which has always been a really cool story and everything. But yeah, he came by and just, he had missed me, and he heard I was leaving the school, and he came in, wrote a handwritten note, and he had good handwriting. I'm still, you know what I'm talking about, you, Grant. I know you're hearing this somewhere. You haunt me, sir. You haunt me, sir. But he wrote down about how much I inspired him and done everything else. And at that point, I that was 4 years that I had seen him in all that time, and I had seen him one other time, and he used to come to my classroom, work on his speeches, do a couple things, would ask me for some special projects, and it was a wonderful, fun time. We'd do that, but it was interesting him writing down about, you inspired me to look beyond this, I knew I was going to do these 2 things, and you helped me, and you were a great teacher, and thank you for that. If I never see you again. And it was just a note. I still have it. It's downstairs.
That's great.
So it was great to do that. And I had 2 former students of mine from several years ago. One of them became my son's teacher, and she said
Wow.
herself she was very inspired by some of the things I did. But I was like, yeah, but you were good with there. But I still can talk to her. It's like talking about everything else too, and I'm very proud of what they've become. And it's nice to see it. But of course, I have the one where, like, oh no, I'm that old. You're now a teacher. What did I do? Like, wait, when did I get? And friends of mine who've been doing this, a little longer than me say, oh, well, wait until it's number 7, or wait until one of their kids comes in. I'm like, stop, we're not there. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not leaving high school again. I'm stuck there. I've told everybody at D428, you're gonna have to drag me out of here. Of course not. They probably would drag me out. They're like, he's done. Get him out of here.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
that's why, we the park and the after school program I worked for was a park and rec organization, a civic organization, through a city. And we had similar situations where the kids that we were watching came back and began to run the program after we all had already left. And
Right.
And something that I always think about, for myself, of course, too, just in general in the day, but some things we would tell some of the new staff. Our old boss would have us come back sometimes and do some trainings and things. And something I always talked about was, you're making memories. These children are going to remember you. Maybe not everything, but they're going to remember stuff. Like, you're making memories, and like, what a gift that is.
Yeah.
To be welcomed into the people's lives and the families' lives, to make memories in someone's life. Like, what a gift, and what an important role that is. So don't think like it's, oh, we're just a bunch of kids, or they're a bunch of kids, and they're not going to remember, or we're going to forget. You're not. You're going to remember stuff, and so are they. And it's a gift.
Yeah, and I agree. It's like full circle to my old preschool teacher still remembering too. But one of the big things too was, she and her co-teacher, they were very Mr. Rogers play, and they like to do us to play and get things. I mean, besides recess, especially things else, but they like to set things up where things were a game, and it was constantly there too. And I do remember that to this day. And I can't remember my second teacher's name. It's been so many years. I'm pretty sure if I walked in and talked, she I mean, like I said, she's been there 60 odd years.
Right.
She's she retired and still working, and she still does it because she loves it. She does. I don't. She never saw herself anything beyond. I think she said herself that was like only her second job she ever did.
Wow.
She got into preschool. She was early elementary way back when, like I said, 60 years ago. So we're talking about the 1960s, the mid 1960s.
Wow.
On that thought process, and the fact that she stayed all that through all, 6 decades, all the changes, all the culture, all the different kids, everything. And then, she still can do it after all those years too. And a lot of us can really speak high memories of us, even though the schools changed, the communities changed, I should say the staff changed there. And like I said, it's a preschool level. It's very interesting to see all that too. I can walk by my mom still lives by my old elementary school down the block. I walk by, but the school's not what it used to. I mean, it's different. Like some parts walk, and like I said, it's the old good memories. It's not the ghosts of the past.
Right.
But I walk through there and I can say, yeah, that was there, that was there, that was there. But outside the principal, nobody else is left of that school.
Right.
But I can share about, this was a good memory and that was a bad memory. And I remember coming up these stairs and everything else. I remember these things that we used to do with speech part, and the library used to be over there. And it's a lot of great memories of that too. But I can at least go back to those early elementary days. And I even can say myself, because like I said, it was the Federated Church that I went to for my preschool. Place does not, I can walk those halls and I have crazy memory and I can even say it, but there's another stairway here. This is another room. This was all open, and this one here, and the library's bigger. And then everything. And like I said, we kind of did not go anywhere near the church area because of certain reasons, but I could walk well, the hall used to be that way, but now it's not there anymore. So it's very interesting to bring back those memories. But I can say, I know I was here. I remember this teacher. We did the story. We did Star Wars story, and it was right here, 1982. It was fantastic. Whopping 4-year-old Dr. Reed. Yes, back when he had hair and was shorter and thinner and didn't wear giant flat feet shoes. This is my podcast, everybody. You think this is bad? You should hear my kids. We don't get him at all. I was telling them today that I was telling them how we're going to finish up because we're in the last 2 weeks of the semester. And I said, well, this has happened, but we did this. I said, so we're going to do this with a twist. And they looked at me like, how did you do that? I'm like, twist. And they looked at me like, please don't do that again. I'm like, twist. They're like, stop, please stop. I'm like, what do you mean? About 50 years ago, this was a cool dance. Like, but Dr. Reed, you weren't born 50 years ago. Yeah. It's like, I'm nostalgic, guys, nostalgic. But there was a situation a couple years where one of my former students from our school on a school visit, and we were talking, and they said, oh, has he done this? No. But I ran into one of my former students. She does community service there, and I was doing something. She's like, oh God, I remember that. Oh, that. And she's like, you're the reason why I remember not to do that with my insurance. So thank you for it. Really? But she's like, they weren't, the insurance people weren't as scary as I thought they were. I'm like, well, that's because we live in DeKalb County. I was like, you go down the street over there in the middle of nowhere, and we're gonna have those dark movies like, Stranger Things. No.
Right. It's different.
Oh man, this has been fun. Paul, what do you got coming up actually for Ratio Staff? I mean, it's hard to believe we're heading into a brand new year. Hard to believe we're at that midpoint for the school year. So, it's hard to believe preschools, unlike other levels outside of kindergarten, they kind of get done early. So like, what do we got coming up? What do we have as, the school year does start going to the end and for everything?
Yeah, preschool is different in the sense that there is the summertime. You tend to see more of a hiring cycle or an uptick in hiring in the summer, but there is not as a clearly defined seasonal hiring time as you would see in other ages. So for preschool and for Ratio, it's kind of a year-round kind of need, year-round hiring, especially when it comes to substitutes and enrichment teachers, right? What we do have coming up for the new year is enhanced teacher profile features, as well as a brand new model for the schools. So instead of a bundled kind of subscription model, we have coming in the new year a pay-as-you-play kind of plug-and-play model instead. So the school makes a profile, they come on the platform, they make a profile, and they have that profile just ready and available for teachers to find them. So you're discoverable, you're searchable, so schools can see you, learn about you, and you have that now, right? I mean, in the future, you'll have just make a profile and you're ready to go. Then if you need to hire for that, let's say it's a hiring cycle for you, you add on the job posting feature and you take it off when you're done. You need some substitutes, you add on the sub feature, take it off when you're done. You want some enrichment, you put it on, you take it off, right? So there's not this monthly bundle kind of thing.
I see where you're going. As somebody who's been in the temp and, as a CTE teacher, I know exactly what you're talking about because I was helping with one of the kids. Like, I want to sign up for temp work, Dr. Reed, because I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm going to stay home when I graduate in May. I said, well, then you need to do this. I'm like, well, he's like, you can always add or remove it. I mean, you get more experience, add it. If you're like, I haven't done that in a dog's age, take it out. I mean, and then if anybody asks you in a year, it's like, well, I did that X, Y, and Z, but that's it. So they're
so this way we give the schools a lot more flexibility, because our model and my desire as you said, the models, my desire for the business is to offer flexibility to schools and teachers. In this world, we get some flexibility, we get some agency, we get some control, right? That the schools and teachers need. And I think that then allows, right, this again, this increased connection, and it's this efficient, effective connection, right? So you'll have the enhanced teacher profile features, which will include your ability to make your availability schedule for yourself if you want. Right now, you can turn yourself on, turn yourself off. So you can hide your profile or make your profile visible. In the future, you're going to be able to make yourself visible with an availability schedule if you'd like, right?
I think that's really important, because some people feel like, oh, you're afraid of all from. Well, no, actually, February is horrible for me, or oh,
Right.
I'm going to be out, or I hate to say it, I have a family member gone, and I need to kind of say I'm not available for at least a
Right.
couple weeks.
And then it makes it so you don't have to turn it off and on every day if you forget, that kind of thing. So I think it'll be better for the teachers. So really, what we're doing is what's up and coming. For us, again, is just some continual improvement, some constant improvement to hopefully again increase the connection, right, and make things easier and more effective for schools and teachers to find each other, because that's all we want. All we want is for you to find the teacher that you want. We want the teacher to find the school they want. So ultimately, the kids have that different kind of day. If we can bring the level of calm down for the adults, then we know the level of calm for the kids is probably going to be there too, right? We can help the adults regulate, and they can hopefully co-regulate with the children, and everyone can have an easier, smoother day, ideally.
Well, and as they say, it's contagious. So if the teacher is rested and ready to go, a lot of the kids will be as well, especially at that age. I have to say, as somebody who's been getting a little bit more into his creative writing and a little bit of book writing, I mean, working on that right now with a memoir, but there was times where I could remember where I got it and the kids got into it. And sometimes it was vice versa. The kids were energetic, so I got energetic. When I remember one time years ago, I just was getting over bronchitis. It was a quiet day. I luckily had this one, and it was like, oh, it's the kinder class. And I'm just like, and I'm telling the guys, and then they're like, Dr. Reed, we want to do this. Dr. Reed, we want to do this. I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden I got really excited. And then all of a sudden they're like, you okay? Like, I kind of needed that. And they're like, you need to lay down. Like, yes, I need to lay down now, but I needed that right there.
Yeah. So that's good. I hear you. So, that's where hopefully we can help meet that need, right? And I think we do. I think the way the platform is built, and I think what we have to offer brings that to the world. And it's something I'm excited about, because it doesn't really exist right now for preschools and preschool teachers. It just doesn't exist. There hasn't been a solution like this for preschool teachers, and the schools together. So there's a lot of attention and a lot of time right now spent on connection from school to parent, right, on that side, but not really school to teacher. And these larger platforms just don't work. The larger platforms just don't work. Indeed, and these kinds of things, they just don't work for
not for this level too. I mean, like, one of the positions I applied for, I didn't find it for Indeed. I found it luckily because I had a former coworker who was working there too. And then there was one where I did find it through, but it was very hard. And then they were saying themselves, like, we're having a really hard time with lower elementary finding those teachers versus some would go on there and do it, but they found a way, versus I'm going to the website, I'll do this school district, oh yeah, look, there's my level, and you move on, and then hey, sign up for a sub and you're off and running. But yeah, I think that's a very interesting thing. And I have to say, the most common schools, and I mean, whether you do homeschool or not, everything is preschool. I mean, most kids, whether they go public, private, or whatever, preschool is very common, and there is a very long plethora. I mean, there's regular schools that offer PK. There is, or TK, whatever you want to go by, whatever part of the country you are, whether in the U.S., Canada. It is. It's I always get a kick when they say what's PK, and like, PK is preschool. Oh, I got you, pre-kinder. I'm like, yes, that's why we say PK4, or you have to keep to say TK4, and I'm like, TK4. I'm like, that's the same thing. It's just a different. And then like, oh, I get the level. I'm like, yeah, they're teaching. I'm like you learn all these acronyms, then you go to Europe and you're lost.
Right.
Nothing to my friends in Europe. You're all great teachers. Okay. Just so you know, I'm just telling you, I just don't the categories, and I'm a CTE teacher, guys. I'm about the abbreviations and categories. I mean, I'm writing some information on a project that probably won't be used in a classroom for at least a couple years, but I'm planning it. But some people will look at me like, what are you talking?
Right.
Oh man, Paul, this has been a fun time, I have to say, this last half hour. How can people get a hold of you if they can't go through anything with ratios, staffing, or anything?
Yeah, they definitely on the website. There's a contact us form. You can also for sure email me like you have here at info@ratiostaffing.com. If you go to ratiostaffing.com and go to the contact page, it comes to me. So and I will call you back. I will call you. I'll email you. Whatever you want to do. We're working on expanding and ensuring our features match the market's requirements. So every state, as you know, has different requirements.
Yep.
And so we're making sure that the teacher and school profiles make sense. So if you feel like your region is not represented on there yet, just let me know or give us a minute and we'll get it on there because we're working on catching up to all these different markets right now. So our goal is to be available in all these major markets and quote unquote non-major markets because I don't view the country that way or preschool that way. So
no, it doesn't matter.
We're looking to be in the markets. Period.
Preschool is a different, as I say, is a different, creature as well as itself. Whether you're city, rural, small town, big city, metropolitan, or like hi, file. How are you doing today? We good? Yeah.
Yeah.
We need some preschool teachers. PK4. Right. What are we doing today? Arts. All right.
Right. So we want to make sure we're available and it makes sense. And so if you don't see your region yet, if you don't see requirements that make sense to you, please let me know. Contact me or sign up as best you can, and we can fix it. And I promise you, on the back end, the tech team is working on it. I'm not a tech guy, but luckily I have a tech partner that I trust, and he will get it done, and he's working on it right now. So. Yep. If you need anything, if you fill out that contact form or email me, I will get back to you personally. It's me. So there won't be anyone else calling you back, emailing you. And we don't collect data and sell it and spam. We don't do any. That's not what we're here for. We're not a tech or data company. We are a preschool connection company. So if you contact us, it's me. By us, I mean me. So,
yeah.
If you feel
you will get Paul Buckley right here. Okay,
yeah.
Paul. Yeah. It's Paul. It's Paul. Maybe one of the kids, but it's Paul.
Yeah. So don't worry about it.
It's not chatbot Lana. All right,
exactly.
we're good. And that's right. The guy who uses AI. Anyhow.
Right.
I'm a CTE teacher. Okay, I keep saying that on these podcasts. People are just like, what is he not doing? I do weird stuff, and I only sub PE once a year. Okay, anyhow, preschool PE. No, soccer. Sorry, Paul. You've been caught in the Dr. Reed podcast moment, and this is how I am in school. People always ask, like, we got to talk to his students. He always like this, and I'm like, yes, he is.
Yeah.
I don't stop. I've had a good day. Let's leave it at that. Anyhow, everybody else, thank you so much for joining us on both the live stream and those listening to the audio here. Please check out the information here for Ratio Staffing here. It is in the show notes and everything else too. And Paul, thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate it. It was great.
It was a lot of fun. And then we are people on the live stream. We tried to show the little phantom podcast too behind us, and it just doesn't work. So on that note, I think I will show what I am good as a CTE teacher, which is my Canva exit issue for the live stream. Everybody else, have a wonderful night.